Welcome everyone to Agency Rainmaker TV. This is where we help agency owners, the ad agencies, digital marketing agencies, PR agencies make it rain. And we have guests who come in who give us best practices on business development so small to mid-size agencies can find right fit clients. And I'm so happy to have with me today Patrick McGowan. Patrick, welcome. What are you going to tell us today?
Hi, Henry. Thank you for letting me be on the show. Been looking forward to this. We're going to talk about video presence today.
It's a lot of pressure than having you on my show, Patrick, but we'll do the best we can here.
Although I'm looking forward to it.
Well, tell us about your upcoming book.
My upcoming book is called Across the Lens: How Your Zoom Presence Will Make or Break Your Presence. I'm sorry, how your Zoom presence will make or break your business. And it's basically a book that provides principles and guidelines for how to show up with more power, presence, and credibility across the lens.
And what's the name of your company?
The name of my company is Punchn, Punchn.
So we're going to add some more punch to our video presence here. Who is your target audience? Who are you an authority to?
Yeah, that's a great question. My target audience are consultants and experts.
Certainly why I invited you. Basically, if you're an agency owner, you're both a consultant and an expert authority, helping people with their revenue challenges. And then we know for 2 out of 3 agency owners, their number one priority is filling the dry sales pipeline with right fit prospects. So we're so much tied to Zoom these days and people doing their own TV shows and Zoom interviews. It's so great to have you on to share some wisdom on this. So what are your best tips? What do you want to leave us with to increase our presence and our punch when we're on video?
That's a great question, Henry. 3 things that I think are most important. Number 1 is you want to prepare for when you get in front of the camera. 2, you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself, that you have a clear position that you're communicating. And I think on a technical level, you want to make sure you have a good, clear, at minimum, good, clear webcam, and that you're framed in the box using the rule of thirds.
Please explain the rule of thirds.
The rule of thirds, you can see how I'm on the screen right now. And the rule of thirds is basically borrowing from the photography and videography world, where you split your screen up into 3 equal sections, both vertically and horizontally. And then you want your eyes to be on that or somewhere close to that top third line. You also want to eliminate the negative space above your head. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you come down here in the screen, you end up looking very small and you diminish your value and you diminish your presence. So we want to avoid those things. We want to give you as much power and presence across the lens.
When I'm explaining it to people, I say, think of the flag of France or the flag of Italy or the flag of Mexico. And that's divided into those 3 parts. And because I've worked with you, I'm hanging out in this third part. I used to be dead on and straight. Mm-hmm. It's not as interesting. You've also helped me. What's behind me, I get compliments. It's not an accident. We set designed that because you have to think that it's not just I'm in an office. Now I'm on a set. And what other tips do you have about the physical environment?
The physical environment is really important because it's the physical environment that begins to tell the story about you. And one of the things we have to realize about being on video is you're saying a lot before you say anything out loud. So you want your physical environment to be both on brand and on message. Ask yourself the question, am I showing up at the level of value that I'm trying to sell to my clients? That level of value gets communicated immediately when you show up on camera. And that's the power of the first impression. So we often say first impressions are the lasting impression sometimes. Think about how you're showing up in person and how you're showing up on camera, and they really have to align with the value you're trying to project.
It's just a new skill. Now, Patrick and I both have MBAs, and we came at this from not just a communications angle, but a little different angle. And when I got my executive MBA 25 years ago, I said, I've learned so much in this period. What do I have to do to stay current? And he says, well, you know the fundamentals about finance and accounting and HR. What you have to keep up with is the technology. And the technology will keep evolving. And in 25 years, it certainly has. And I've had to learn many things with websites and communicating through that medium and putting video on to the information we have coming out. And I think this whole, through the pandemic, just accelerated what we needed to do. And it wasn't just relying on that little dot camera in your laptop and maybe upgraded to something for $75 to $100. And that was a little better with that external camera, and then maybe added a light. Now I think, well, we've spent over $1,000 to get this level of quality, and we need to keep looking at other things to do with camera lenses and all that. How do you advise your clients on this changing technology? And
Yeah.
maybe you could give us your story, because you certainly have evolved a lot in the last 2 years.
Yeah, so I'll start with my story, and then I'll branch into this question around technology, because it's a really important question. My story is, I even have a screenshot of me from March 2020. Actually, I think it's March 24th, 2020. So nearly 3 years ago. And I look at that picture still, and I look at it, and I looked and I felt like a potato on camera. And that was the spark that said I had to do something different. Now, I've reconciled with my own vanity in the process, but I use my vanity as a force for good. Where I went immediately was thinking, okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People need the technology. And I thought initially this was going to be a technology company, and I was going to be the stitch fix of video conference equipment for the hybrid at-home virtual workforce. And then I realized, using my MBA skills, I realized, wait a minute, I really don't want to be in the inventory business. And it was then that I also realized that this is more than just technology. It is also about humanity. It's about the story you're trying to tell. So the question around technology is, the technology has to support the story you're trying to tell. And there's a great quote in the documentary on Industrial Light and Magic. And this special effects artist actually said, I think somewhere in the 7th or 8th episode, he said, we can do all kinds of special effects, but the special effects has to support the story. So the first step to deciding on what technology you need is actually deciding what story you want to tell. And then deciding, will I be able to tell that story with a webcam, or do I need to upgrade to a digital camera system? I felt that the story I wanted to tell demanded another level of communication. I was going to be in the video presence business. I needed to demonstrate what that meant. And that's why I went with a Canon mirrorless camera, Sigma lens with a wide aperture. Technically, what that means is I can blur my background, as you can see. And if I may, this is my Blue's Clues moment, where I can pull things out of the background And then because my camera has autofocus, it is almost as though I have a cameraman focusing in on my book.
Or a camera person.
Or a camera person. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I have a line about, I know a guy, and the audience says, "Oh, don't you know any women?"
Well,
Good point.
I grew up watching my mom do the nightly news. She was the first female anchor woman here in South Dakota. And I would sit in the back of the set on the floor. And back then it was all cameramen. But that was back in the day when the cameras were the size of a VW Beetle. And yeah, they were like little hovercrafts, but they were massive. And what's remarkable is that we actually have the ability for a couple $1,000s to create something of even better quality than what my mom had in the late 70s, early 80s.
It is truly amazing. We are like, if you watched a James Bond movie from that period, we have all the gadgets James Bond had back then.
Right. I have my Dick Tracy watch already.
Yeah,
right?
you can, yeah. I'm on my way.
I'm on my way, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So what has been the main piece of advice you're giving people now that, okay, we're coming out of this pandemic, we're meeting with people live, so is this going away?
It's not going away. In fact, the advice or the perspective that I provide clients and people willing to talk with me is simply, number one, you can say, okay, well, I guess it's not going away. That's one way of saying it. The other is, and more strategically, is video is how we do business now. And that perspective elevates the importance of making sure that your video presence is on message and on brand. And so what we have to do is we have to take video meetings on Zoom out of the operations budget and put it into the marketing budget. Because how you show up on camera represents you and it represents your company. And you have to ask yourself the question, how do I want to be perceived when I show up in a face-to-face client meeting, whether it's in person or on camera? They have to agree.
I'm editing a book right now by an agency owner, and she helps health tech, IT, biotech companies. And she made the point that you don't need a spokesperson. You need 3 spokesperson trained and ready to go. Because if the New York Times calls, or Bloomberg, or pick a CNN or Fox News, pick who you want, they want you on screen. And
Yep.
that you talk about looking like a potato, that doesn't cut it. So you not only need to be media trained on your messages, you need to be trained in this medium. And little techniques you've taught me about how I'm not really looking at you right now, but it looks like I'm looking at you. That's the important part.
Yeah.
It's better that you look good than you feel good. It's better that you look like you're looking at the other person than actually looking at the other person. It's just little techniques and how you even hold your chin or how you respond. And I think that's so important about your work that's coming out. And we're very proud to be your publisher here at Indie Books and bring this information to the world. And we're looking forward to your future books because we know you are an authority on the subject and you have a lot more to say. So I want to thank Patrick for being our guest today, and thank you for being our viewers. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of Agency Rainmaker TV. And I leave you with the thought, make it rain.